Okay, so my name is Ferid Azemi. I work as professor assistant at the Faculty of Public Safety at Kosovo Academy for Public Safety. I had the dean position till recently, and then with other engagements, I had to leave the position. But yeah, I'm still working at our academy. My background comes from I have completed my bachelor degree uh, at American Intercontinental University, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice, and Masters of Criminal Justice at Boston University, and also Ph.D. in Public Policy and Administration in with a specialization in criminal justice at Walden University. So I'm I have published a few articles and two textbooks uh, about in relation to criminal justice. So and I have a good collaboration with a lot of members of GLITSS and other experts of criminal justice overall at the global level. So. Uh, So this topic it's very important, especially for the Western Balkan countries, because they are all are dreaming of joining the European Union. So in order to join the European Union and to be a full member, then the countries have to comply with European Union policies and laws and rules. So Uh, what is the problem about the Western countries? Western Balkan countries, which include Albania, Kosovo, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, North Macedonia, and Montenegro, is that there are a lot of issues with uh, uh, with the illicit trade going through the borders of these countries. So we will treat the this issue from the variety of perspectives, but uh, our focus will be on illicit trade, which is a persistent, multifaceted challenge in the Western Balkans, which involves trafficking in goods, trafficking in narcotics, weapons, and human beings, and other things like uh, certain things like goods, for example, that are not declared in the customs in the border, smuggling of the goods also, and so on. Uh, which this results into undermining the economic stability, uh, the governance, and regional security as well. So this is why it is very important uh, for the Western Balkan countries uh, to address the issue and the scope of this presentation. It's like we can talk a small fraction of the percentage of what really the issue is, in Western Balkans. For 1 hour here in the webinar, we can touch only some of the main points of this issue. Otherwise, it's very broad and very wide topic, very complex topic, because it involves not only one country but several countries. So, as a region. So our aim is to investigate the scope and drives of illicit trade, with focus in the Western Balkan countries, to examine systemic impacts on economy, governance, and society, and to provide policy recommendation for sustainable countermeasures as well. So before we move on with the long-term effects and stuff like that, it is good to go back to statistical data and see where do we stand as Western Balkan countries. So, based on the statistical data, the Balkan route income, according to the UN statistical data, it is estimated that illicit financial flow linked solely to opiate and metamorphin trafficking through the Balkan routes generate between 3.4 to $6.9 billion annually. So only with these two kind of narcotics that, according to data, generating so much money, so much like 3.4 billion to 6.9 billion annually. This gives us a picture of where the issue is and how much this illegal income, might impact governance, might impact the certain branches of the government, and might impact also for example, the corruption as well, because it might have impact on the high corruption rates in the Western Balkan countries. So it is a hidden economy, which is often called by the analysts as a shadow economy, fueled by cash-based transactions. Usually, the illicit trade transaction means is usually based on the cash-based, not like a normal bank wiring and stuff like that, because it leaves the traces, but usually cash-based. So in this way, the investigation becomes more difficult, and this is have impact also on the outcome of the success of the investigation overall, and also the operating procedure of the criminal groups, which it's a lot easier for them, and it's also it's also the issue that this is why criminal groups mostly use. So another issue that came to light recently is the war between Ukraine and Russia. So what it means in recent years is that the sanction invasion expansion, it's happening. So following the invasion of Ukraine, the region saw an influx of capital and trade misinvoicing. So the re-export of dual-use goods through countries like Serbia and Bosnia-Herzegovina has significantly complicated regional enforcement. So unless the countries in Western Balkans have good cooperation, border control, the fight against this phenomena, it's very difficult. So we have the countries that don't communicate to each other so much, have tensions are going on, political instability, and so on. So, and lately the war in Ukraine has caused also given opportunity to criminal groups to use this as an advantage for the illicit trades overall. So, public enterprise and fiscal losses in certain nations like Bosnia Herzegovina, for example, uh, parallel inefficient of state capture intersect with these flows. So, over 550 public enterprises generate heavy annual debts surpassing $4 billion, 4 billion euros, that frequently bleed into an obscure, unmonitored fiscal stream. So these are the economic situation also have impact on the illicit trade and the push factors. So key potential threats. There are a lot of threats that could be mentioned, but some of the main threats are border vulnerability and maritime exploitation. Traffickers heavily exploit the regional sea, air, and land borders, while traditional overland routes manage heroin and systematic drugs. Maritime commercial and container seaports are intensely targeted for smugglers, smuggling massive quantities of from South American cocaine into European markets. So the routes are multiple routes, which go through the Balkan countries, and from the Balkan countries go to the European Union. So if we are talking about uh, the drugs, for example, illegal drugs, narcotics in general, usually the drugs that come through Balkan routes, they're not designed for the Balkan countries. They're more designed to go through the to the European Union countries in Western Europe. So usually they use the Balkan countries as a transit route, and and one of the one of the reasons why, because uh, it is because the Western Balkan countries are on the doorsteps of the European Union overall, are surrounded by European Union, but also at the same time, the criminal groups find uh, the weak spots, if I can say so. For example, the corruption, which then move on from the corrupted channels of the border control, of the customs, and then like transport the drugs through the Western Balkan countries, and then from the Western Balkan countries to Western Europe. So these are one of the reasons why they use the Balkan routes, because it is easier, and also the corruption is higher in Western Balkan countries than European Union. So state capture and institutional decay, immense wealth generated by illicit trade empowers criminal groups to infiltrate judicial system, police force, and political structures. This symbiotic relationship between systemic corruption and informal economies leads to higher prevalence of state capture where public assets and policies are steered by private criminal interests rather than the rule of law. With this, we, I mean, the data are showing that when there is a lot of money in question, criminal groups can also corrupt the authorities and political parties and so on. So in this way, they can create their safe haven in these countries. So in this way, they continue the operation because they control the politics. So this is why Western Balkan countries have to strengthen the rule of law and also to fight the corruption much more in the future, because this is also the request of the European Union. And if the countries want to join the European Union, they have to work also more on the fighting the corruption overall. So then we have geopolitical vulnerabilities. Western Balkan countries have political instability. Some of the countries, in this region. So this is very good for the criminal groups because they take advantage of the political instability. So in this way, they enjoy the illegal activities. But this another thing that have helped this geopolitical vulnerabilities. It's also the Russia and Ukraine war. So when we talk about Russia and Ukraine war, Russia has got quite some influence in Western Balkan countries. If we focus especially in Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina mostly, and this is also an issue, and it will be an issue for the future of these countries. So because Western Balkan countries are depending on have ties to regional energy sections that are connected to Russia, and leveraging informal channels to disrupt the region's integration of the Western Balkan into EU framework. So because some of the countries of Western Balkans are depending on the Russian energy sector, then this is causing them also delay on the applying and complying with the EU framework, and therefore also join the European Union. So there are multiple, factors, but one of the factors, this one. So overall, the cooperation between countries of Western Balkan, it's very crucial if we are not to fight this phenomenon in general. So key drives, as we have mentioned. So briefly, weak border management and surveillance, corruption and low institutional capacity. So when we talk about border management and surveillance, we are talking about also the appropriate training with the border officers and border management should have as well, because with the advancement of technology, with the advancement of the of the, as we move to the new centuries, the crime is taking new shapes and new forms, as well as the knowledge that the officers have in the border management should, also keep update with that. So criminal groups are always trying to find ways and new methods to smuggle the goods and items and so on, and therefore also they need also training and also equipment. So if you go to the borders of the Western Balkan countries, uh, you can see that they lack, for example, because I work at academy, and academy is also part of the what we do is like we have the bachelor degree for the public safety, which is mainly security, and also uh, uh, training for the police officers. So they often they don't have equipment for controlling the border and surveilling the borders. They lack the staff, also understaffed sometimes, and so on. So in order to have all of those to address the border issues, the agencies, law enforcement agencies, have to have the resources. So this is why it is important for the government to do more about it. Corruption and low institutional capacity. Uh, Western Balkan countries, the government officials, they don't have very high salaries. So when there is a lot of money, through these illegal channels, uh, there are also opportunities uh, uh, and leave room for the corruption. So therefore, one of the main issue is corruption of these key points. For example, the border control, um, the investigation section of the law enforcement also. So this is why the government has to address this issue of corruption in order to address also the this to control the illicit trade and to eliminate, if possible, regional instability and post-conflict vulnerabilities. Uh, Western Balkan countries have suffered a lot of conflicts and like wars and system changes and so on. So this is why you know it is difficult sometimes to comprehend from the Western European lenses of the issue of the Western Balkans. Thinking about the wars that have just occurred, uh, and recently actually. So this have impact also on the phenomena as well. So we have the countries in Western Balkans that don't communicate with each other, and then they have the channels, for example, Kosovo and Serbia. I'm not a political person, I'm more like a research, but the example is here you have the law enforcement person from on one side of the border, and then you have another law enforcement on the other side of the border, and then they don't communicate to each other, and the crime is a crime, no matter what kind of ethnicity the criminal might have. It impacts both of them in both sides. So it is good maybe to change the mentality in the future and communicate and fight the crime and leave politics on the side. So in this way, they can contribute to each other, to society overall. You have to think about the Western Balkan countries as the whole region. So in this way, better communication channels. The bureaucratic communication also, it's another issue, because the crime, it occurs, and then if there is a border management that are not communicating to each other, it's very difficult to address the illicit trade from one country to the other. So the region has to be like a perfect communication list of sharing the intelligence gathering, sharing the information. So in this way, uh, this phenomena is reduced at the regional level, because this is the route, more as a route, Balkan route of illicit trade. That the trade is designed mainly for the Western European countries. So this is why it is important the countries, the regional, the countries in Western Balkans to have healthy and good communication to each other for the cause and for the purpose of the fighting the illicit trade and reducing or even, addressing this issue entirely. Another thing is demand for cheap and prohibited goods. High demands can create, can give opportunity to the criminal groups, because when you have the high demand for drugs, for example, there is always a supplier for it. Based on the research, past research, no matter how much the government might do, for example, to arrest the smugglers and so on, when there is a high demand for the drugs, for example, there is always a supplier for this criminal activity. So 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 anyway, so this is why the government has to have the strategy, also create strategies to do this, to address this issue. And we have limited economic opportunity fueling informal markets. The markets in Western Balkan countries, I have to wrap it a little bit to go faster because we have, due to the time limit, the Western Balkan markets are flooded with, like you have seen the brands, Nike brands, Adidas brands, and so on. This is also illicit trade of this. For example, this. So you have Nikes that you buy for $10 or so, and original Nikes you have to buy for $120 or so. So the market is flooded because limited opportunities are in these countries, and this is why we have this. Also, the tobacco trade is another issue in Western Balkans, and I think more investment in these countries on modernization of the law enforcement, more equipment for law enforcement agencies, more resources would have positive impact on reducing this phenomena as well. So, but anyway, the consequences, economic consequences, are loss of tax and revenues and so on, market distortion and unfair competition, because when you have the illicit trade, the criminal groups are putting the lower prices, and the legitimate businesses are losing because they are underpriced and so on. Reduced foreign investment confidence. So when we have all of these illicit trade goods going on, and no serious company would invest in the country that cannot control the illicit trade, for example, these marks and so on. So For example, the Nike. I'm taking example of Nike, for example, doesn't want to come in Western Balkan countries when they see that their brand is misused and they're, smuggled through illegal channels and underpriced and so on. So it's very not serious country for them, for example, to come and invest. So it would discourage the investors uh, and. And the growth of shadow economies underlined with fiscal policy. So uh, in this way, also damaging the overall economy. So political ramifications, uh, enhancement of corruption within institution, erosion of the public's trust in governance, and undermining the rule of law and democratic accountability, and political manipulation by criminal networks. So criminal networks usually invest a lot of money in propaganda for certain politicians. So in this way, they can enjoy more freedom when that politician is elected. So that's why they invested a lot of money. Social impact, public health crisis, drug addiction, unsafe products that people use, human trafficking and labor exploitation, increased insecurity and violence, weakening of community resilience and social cohesion. So these are some of the impacts, negative impacts. And then we have transnational dimensions. Cross-border criminal networks exploiting weak coordination. So I mentioned earlier that the coordination and collaboration, intelligence sharing is very important for the law enforcement agencies to each other, to other, countries with each other. And this is why criminal groups are aware of this communication barriers. So they take advantage of it. Links to global illicit supply chain, threats to European integration, regional cooperation, and spillover effects of neighboring EU states. So these are some of the effects. Long-term effects are economic, persistent shadow economies, fiscal instability, political, which deepened corruption, state capture risks, social disruption, communities weakened institutions, geopolitical impact, slower EU accession, external influence expansion as well. And policy recommendation at the end, because we have to, due to the short time, policy recommendation, strengthen the cross-border cooperation and intelligence sharing, building institutional capacity and transparency, fostering a regional anti-corruption framework, invest in social economic development to reduce the incentives, and engage in civil society and media for accountability. Uh, in conclusion, illicit trade is a structural threat to sustainable development. So with this, countries cannot develop. Requires a coordinated regional and international response. Strengthened governance is a key to long-term resilience and future research. These countries, in Western Balkan countries, are needed more research, data-driven regional strategies, and digital monitoring also as well. So these are some of the, to wrap it up because we are running out of the time, but these are some of the main...
It's totally fine. So take your time. It's totally fine. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm. So I try to be as, as brief because illicit trade, it's very complex and multi-dimensional phenomena. It's not only one country, it's not only one type of crime that occurs. It is a widespread network connecting to multiple sections, like touching the economy, corruption of law enforcement agencies, members actually, then fiscal disadvantaging of the countries that rely on the fiscal years and fiscal policies and so on. So it is pretty much damaging overall the stability of the region, this phenomena. So countries need, overall, when I summarized it, it is important to have better collaboration between countries, to see crime as a crime, not as, like ethnic issue, because crime is same. Whoever does a crime, it doesn't matter the ethnicity. So the countries have to fight it, and then this is for the good of the societies within the region. So more investment on the resources for the law enforcement agencies, more fight against the corruption, and also more fight on the informal economies in the Western Balkan countries. So these are the takeaways. But with a lot of money that's going on with the illicit trade, we will be having a long journey on fighting this phenomena. So this is to summarize. So thank you so much for your attention. I'm here for any question, or we can discuss together.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ferid, for all the presentation and for actually tackling and addressing some of the main issues that are current in a way that have different impacts in terms of social impact, economic impact, political impact, but especially when it comes to long-term effects that it will have, especially among our region. So maybe we can open the session now for questions and then further remarks. Maybe I can go first with a question, because you highlighted corruption and weak institutional capacity as key drivers of illicit trade. Maybe we would like to know, in your view, which institutional reform should be prioritized in the Western Balkans to achieve, let's say, the greatest and the long-term impacts, and what evidence supports this choice? Because one of the main issues that we as a region share is to have more informed and more structured, let's say, policies, and to have more evidences when it comes to decision making. So what should be prioritized first in your view? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yeah. I think based on what I have seen in Western Balkan countries, and analyzed also the strategies so far, I think on the paper, the Western Balkan countries stand very good, actually. But on the practical field, we lack a lot. So we have to adopt those strategies, current strategies, because I know in Albania and Kosovo and Macedonia also, the national strategies against the corruption and against the illicit trade and against, like these phenomena. But I think we have to focus more on in practical field. So what we need in general, it's like, as I said, for example, the border control, more training for the law enforcement officers, advanced training. Another thing is the resources. So you cannot have, for example, two officers control few, like let's say 20 kilometers of the border without equipment. So they cannot just walk 20 miles going back, to their point. If they don't have equipment, it's going to be very difficult. For example, more technology they need in order to detect. For example, you have trucks that go through the borders filled with illicit trade goods. So if they have more equipment, more technology, it would be a lot easier for them. But at the same time, addressing corruption is also another issue that need focus on this phenomena. You can turn the mic because it's done.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Ferid. Now I see from the participants, we have, I guess, one question from Clinton Mucha. Clinton, can you hear us? The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for a very nice presentation and explanation over there. I had a question regarding the betting, online betting, as maybe it's a kind of something we don't see very often, but the trading of betting is very, we can call it the illegal betting mostly. What kind of technologies do you propose or suggest, or how can what the technology could help in reducing and controlling this kind of illegal betting? Because as a reference, in Albania, the betting is illegal. It's prohibited by law, but the betting still works as through the technologies, different technologies. So this is a way how to prevent and how to control, not mostly to control in a negative way, but to make it illegal, to make it legal, not illegal. So because there are some criminal groups which benefit from this, and it is not just nationwide, it's globalized, it's an international wide. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Clinton.
Okay.
Ferid, if you can address
very
this.
Briefly.
To the extent that
very, very difficult question actually to answer, because with the advancement of technology, it's very difficult to control the online betting and online gambling as well. So it is a specialized team, for example, training for the law enforcement agencies to enforce the law. If it is prohibited, then try to track and investigate. But also another thing that is more powerful is increasing awareness of this phenomena. That this is created to take your money, not to give you money. So increasing awareness, it's very important also to prevent this from the first place. Yeah, but it is very difficult to control, no matter which country you are. It's very difficult to control this.
And I fully agree, because while raising awareness, it might help maybe to reduce the phenomena to the extent possible. Yeah.
True.
Thank you. Any more questions or remarks from the participants?
Hello. Yes, please. May I make a question too?
Yeah.
Hello. Yes. Just by looking now in the, let's say, new era of technology with AI and etc. Just to understand or knowing how it's going to be, what role do the emerging technologies, as I mentioned, as AI intelligence or big data analytics, and what role they play in the combating illicit trade or illegal trade? and somehow what are the main challenges, because it's kind of revolution what the AI is doing now, and somehow we are using it for good, but what happens if bad things, let's say, come out from that? So how we are going to challenge that, or to face that, and especially in the Western Balkans. I mean, like, adding that also.
Thank you.
Very briefly, yeah, AI actually is used. I mean, criminal groups are taking advantage of using it. So law enforcement, what they need to do is like they need to implement this AI to check and track the digital, to impose the digital tracing. So it means that to survey the websites, for example, social media and so on, because criminal groups have also social medias and so on using it. So they can be using, the law enforcement can be using to trace and investigate them. So they are taking advantage, of course, the criminal groups are taking advantage of AI and in doing the crime actually. So there is AI and there is super AI, which is being developed now in the advanced countries. So law enforcement should take advantage of every technology that they have to address it. But they do use the AI also, the criminals. It is difficult to control that.
Indeed.
Thank you. Let's hope that,
yeah, indeed. Yeah, I was going to say that they have to go in parallel. I mean, the technological advancements and the responses, or how the law and enforcement mechanisms do respond to the AI advancements. Any more questions or remarks? And if not, Ferid, I would like to thank you so much for taking your time and sharing your expertise and your remarks on this very important topic. And for the participants, I would like to say that we'll have some other webinars, so we'll most probably see each other in the next webinar. It will be shared soon on GLITSS social media. Thank you once again for being here with us, and hope to see each other soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.